In the Mouth of Madness, a fascinating John Carpenter film from the mid-90s. Did you see it? What did you think? Let's talk about it in the comments. Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my theological analysis for In the Mouth of Madness from John Carpenter. Now, I had never seen this movie before, so I'm very grateful for the opportunity to collab with Cody, Leach, and Lee McCoy of Drumdums to see this movie. So thank you guys so much for inviting me to be a part of this collaboration. If you go into my description box, you can click on Cody Leach's link and check out his perspective on this movie. You can click Lee McCoy's link and check out his perspective of this movie. And here's my perspective, my theological analysis for In the Mouth of Madness.
It's Cain's story. And it'll spread with each new reader. That's how it gets its power.
What about the people who don't read?
There's a movie.
In the Mouth of Madness is such a fascinating story on so many levels. I mean, on one level, you have Sutter Kane, and he is this false prophet. Now, just because he's got the term false in his name, it doesn't mean he's not messing with the real power. It's the fact that he's messing with the real power that makes him all the more dangerous. Jesus said in the last days, false prophets will rise up with signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. So what are the signs and wonders, and what's the source of them? For Sutter Kane, the source of his signs and wonders and power is the old ones. He just sits back and he listens to them. And he writes down every single word, every story they tell him to write. And it's the old ones who infuse their madness into the words. And so with each new Sutter Kane novel, the old ones gradually infuse more and more of their madness in it, causing the people to crave the books more and more and more. So as the people read more and more of the books, it alters their mind, their perception, it alters their consciousness, it alters what they can see, and they're beginning to have faith in the old ones and believe in the old ones, and that belief gives the old ones strength. It gives the old ones power so they can cross over and take this earth back. And so what's interesting is the old ones, the devil, they can't create anything of their own originality. They can't. They can't create their own virtues. They can't create their own laws and rules. They can't. They can only copy what God has already created. What God has made, what God has created for good, all they can do is take it and pervert it. One of the things that Jesus said is where two or more are gathered in my name, I am there among them. So when we gather in his name and his identity, he is there among us, because faith is an open door that lets his light into our lives, that lets his presence into our lives. We're creatures of free will, so faith is that open door. So these old ones can only operate off of that principle. If they want to cross over into this realm, the only way they're going to do it is by perverting that principle and getting people to have faith in them, believe in them, and come into agreement about them. And that's why they're doing it in these Stephen King novels, or Stephen King style novels, because that type of horror story is incredibly popular. This type of horror novels are popular. So if they do it like that, more and more people will begin to pick up those books and read these words that are infused with the power of the old ones, that are infused with the madness of the old ones. So the more people read them with that weak mind and that weak will, it lets that stuff in and alters their consciousness, and it brings them into that agreement. And so that's more open doors for the old ones to walk through, to cross over into our world. So the more people read these books, the more mad they become, the more they crave even more of these books, and all the more power it gives to the old ones so that they can cross over. Something else that's really, really interesting is that these words, as they alter perception, they're destroying identity. So when Linda, who is with John Trent kind of on this mission to find the author Sutter Kane, and they find this town, when she's forced to read the last page and she gets the whole story and gets the manuscript, she changes. I mean, she utterly changes to this incredibly wicked thing. But right before she changes into this wicked thing, there's a moment of transformation. She shows up at the hotel room crying to John, I'm losing myself. I'm losing myself. So these words have the power to confuse, they have the power to darken, and they have the power to destroy identity. So because of the scene with Linda, I have a different theory. Now, I know Linda was a character made up by Sutter Kane, and he wrote her off. And I know John Trent was a character written into reality by Sutter Kane, whose sole purpose was to deliver this manuscript in the Mouth of Madness to the world so that the old ones have a bridge into the world through everybody's belief. I totally get that. But what if he's not a fictional character? What if Linda was not a fictional character? So if false prophets arise to do miraculous signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect, what if that's what he's doing? I mean, John goes into this bar and you have this guy who puts a gun to his chin because he says, that's what I'm written to do. His identity was stripped away by Sutter Kane. I mean, you have John Trent fighting this until like the last bit of the movie, fighting the fact, no, I am my own man. I know who I am not a fictional character, and nobody's pulling my strings.
I'm not a piece of fiction.
I think therefore you are. Read it if you don't believe me.
And then he gets to the part where he's watching the book made into a movie, laughing hysterically because he's looking at the big screen. There he is on the big screen, seeing full right there in front of him, the proof that he's nothing more than a fictitious character. But what if he's not? What if that is the signs and wonders deceiving him and destroying his identity, stripping him of his free will, or at least making him believe that he has no free will, so he's only left with one belief. I belong to this guy. I am who he writes me to be. See, that's the power of these perverted words and how they can destroy identity. Where you have the flip side of this, where when Matthew 18:20, what Jesus said, gather in his name, he is in our midst. Then you have Hebrews 4, and it says this, for the word of God is alive and powerful. It is greater than the sharpest two-edged sword, cutting between soul and spirit, between joint and marrow. It exposes our innermost thoughts and desires. That sounds kind of scary, right? Something that is that sharp divides bone from marrow. It's that sharp. It divides soul from spirit, exposes the innermost desires. That sounds scary, except it's not. Because if you look at Sutter Kane and his words are the perversion of the truth, and so they destroy identity, then God's words that are truth and are alive and filled with life are so sharp that they cut between truth and lie, so that the lie can be pushed aside and the truth can be exposed, who we really are, freed and released from that darkness, freed and released from that lie. So Sutter Kane is this false prophet who requires the faith of the people to give him power and to allow the old ones to come through. In the process, their wills are destroyed and their identities are destroyed. Then you have God, who is the truth, where our lack of faith in him won't diminish his power even a little bit, but our faith in him is an open door to let him in our lives that brings true freedom. So what do you see in the mouth of madness? Be sure to let me know in the comments. While you're there, go into my description box, click the link to Cody Leach's video and see his perspective on this movie, and click the link to Lee McCoy's video and see his perspective on this movie. Again, thank you guys so much for inviting me to be a part of this collaboration. And hey, hit that subscribe button to become a Durbanian and the bell next to the subscribe button so you'll be notified when I drop another theological analysis, movie review, or anything else that I do here. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.